17 seconds. Sheldon Whitehouse read 4 lines, and Kash Patel, who has faced off against federal prosecutors, gone through dozens of hostile interrogations, and is one of Washington's most controlled speakers, stood completely still for 17 seconds. No sound, no answer, only hands pressing against the edge of the table and a face flattening. This is the story of those 17 seconds and everything that leads to that silence. Senate Judiciary Subcommittee Constitution, morning session. The agenda had been published publicly. An oversight review of FBI document classification and retention protocols. Bureaucratic language, designed to keep cameras away. A seemingly boring headline. But Whitehouse had requested this session himself. She had been asking for it for 11 months. And finally, when it was scheduled, something unusual happened. At the last minute, 3 extra press credentials were issued. Legal analysts from 2 major networks suddenly appeared. A senior court officer who had seen it all told a colleague as they walked in, "Watch this closely." Kash Patel arrived at 9:47. 2 lawyers are with him, a thick leather portfolio under his arm. That walk that says, "I've been here before and I'll be here again." He knows how to spend 40 minutes on procedural language and the art of careful answering, technically without telling a single lie. He sat down. He adjusted his microphone. He nodded to the president with the calmness of someone waiting to go home at noon. But there was something in Whitehouse's posture. He should have told her. She didn't say it. The first 45 minutes were exactly as the agenda promised. Classification schedules, retention schedules, FBI field office reporting structures. Patel worked on autopilot. Smooth answers that seem detailed enough but don't connect to anything. Safe ground. Until that moment, he was consuming time calmly and in a controlled manner. But as soon as Whitehouse took the microphone, the atmosphere in the room suddenly changed. This is something you won't see in the minutes. A physical thing. A drop in temperature. A change in stance. That specific silence that falls when everyone realizes that what they were all waiting for is about to happen. Whitehouse did not announce it. He simply reached for the folder, pulled out a single document, and placed it face down on the table. This small gesture, this single silent action, was enough to tell everyone in the room, everything from now on is important. "Director Patel," said Whitehouse, "I want to talk about one specific document today. Are you familiar with the FBI internal correspondence identified by reference number EC-2019-PB-047? Patel's expression didn't change. "I am familiar with large volumes of internal correspondence, Senator. You'll need to be more specific." "I'm about to," Whitehouse said. He turned the document. "I'm about to be very specific. I am being very specific." At this point, the situation took a different turn. What Whitehouse did next was not an accident. It wasn't improvised. 11-month detentions, 3 legal objections, 2 Inspector General requests, a systematic study to track exactly which Epstein-related documents were reclassified after Kash Patel became FBI director. "Director Patel, this document is an internal FBI correspondence. Dated November 14, 2019, from the field office to headquarters. Subject line, Epstein matter, interesting individuals, follow-up classification review. Produced by the Palm Beach field office. It contains a list of individuals identified by FBI investigators as having documented contact with Jeffrey Epstein at his Palm Beach residence between 1999 and 2005. He stopped. This document was originally classified as confidential, standard investigative material. He looked directly at Patel. 17 days after being confirmed as FBI director, he was reclassified to the highest level of security clearance on February 3rd of this year. 17 days after being confirmed as FBI director, on February 3rd of this year, he was reclassified to the highest level of security clearance. Silence. It's not the kind of silence that expects politeness, the heavy kind that weighs down a room. Patel's jaw moved slightly, his lips parted, then nothing. His left hand was lying flat on the table. It was evident that the fingers were tense. One lawyer stirred, the other one became completely motionless. With the way people who know things are getting worse become paralyzed. 17 seconds. I counted the seconds. I watched and counted because I wanted to be accurate when telling you this. Kash Patel, one of Washington's most controlled and strategically thinking communicators, sat in that chair and said nothing.
But there is a noteworthy detail here. Why is this reclassification important? When a document is reclassified from secret to the highest level of confidentiality, it requires a direct human decision. A specific official must give approval. When Whitehouse's team traced the authorization chain in document EC-2019-PB-047, they found something that stopped them. Reclassification had not been initiated by the Classification Review Board. It had not been initiated by the National Security Division. It was initiated by a direct request from the director's office, Kash Patel's office. On the 17th day of his tenure, before he had even fully assembled his senior team, one of the new FBI director's first substantive actions was to bury an Epstein document deeper than ever before. "This is not routine," Whitehouse told the room. "This is a choice. This is a choice." Patel finally spoke. His voice was carefully controlled, the voice of a man trying not to show what was beneath. "Senator, reclassification decisions are made based on ongoing law enforcement sensitivities and national security assessments that I cannot discuss in an open session." Whitehouse slowly nodded. He expected this answer, as if he had prepared for it specifically. He reached for his folder and placed a second document on the table. "This is not classified, publicly available. A sworn witness statement recorded in the federal court of the Southern District of Florida in 2020. A former employee who worked at Epstein's Palm Beach residence for 3 years." He found the page. Quote, "I personally observed Mr. Epstein hosting guests on at least 40 separate occasions. On at least 12 of these occasions, there were young women among the guests who appeared to be under 18 years old to me. I observed that these guests were introduced to Mr. Epstein's associates. The person among the partners I know." He paused just long enough. "Donald Trump." The room didn't explode. I want to emphasize this. But the heavy silence that followed was stronger than any reaction. This statement had been indirectly mentioned before, implied in court documents, but it had never been read so openly by a sitting U.S. senator in a federal courtroom, on the record. And at that moment, something passed over Patel's face. It wasn't shock, because Patel doesn't easily get shocked. It was more the discomfort of someone who has been in the same position for a long time, suddenly feeling the ground slip from under their feet. His eyes flicked to his lawyers for half a second, then back to Whitehouse, and his face fell into that well-rehearsed blankness. "Director Patel," Whitehouse continued, "this statement has been under FBI scrutiny since 2020. Part of the same investigation record containing the EC-2019-PB-047 document. The same record you reclassified on the 17th day of your assignment. My question is this. When you made the decision to reclassify that document, were you aware that the investigative record contained a sworn statement identifying Donald Trump as a potential witness to criminal activity at Jeffrey Epstein's residence? My question is this. Are you aware that the document, in which redactions were made, and where the investigative record refers to Donald Trump as having been identified as present during potential criminal activity at Jeffrey Epstein's residence, was stated under oath? And this changed the course of the trial. There it was, the question on which the entire trial is built, not deflected by national security language or ongoing investigation protocol. Because yes or no, without a safe exit. If the answer is yes, yes, I knew it, then this reclassification goes from being a simple bureaucratic procedure to a conscious act aimed at protecting a specific name. If no, meaning he claims ignorance, then it either means he admits to allowing such a significant step without knowing what he was reclassifying, or he is outright lying. So there is no good answer, and Patel knew this very well. It was evident that he knew this.
Whitehouse reached for his folder one last time. Just a single page, standard letter size, white. At the top, the distinctive header format of FBI Internal Communications, Director's Office Action Memorandum. He raised it in a way that the cameras could see, without being dramatic, in a factual manner. The way you hold a document when you want everyone to understand that it is real. Director Patel, this is a memorandum obtained through an FOIA public disclosure compelled by a court order last week, dated February 1st of this year, 2 days before the authorization to reclassify EC-2019-PB-047. He found the passage. I will read you only 3 sentences, Whitehouse said, then calmly recited the quote. Given the potential sensitivity of individuals named in the Epstein investigation records and the current political environment, it is recommended that all documents referencing current senior government officials or their close associates be reviewed under elevated classification. This review should be completed expeditiously, and priority should be given to documents referencing the current administration's principal officials and pre-office relationships. He concluded the quote, slowly lowered the document, and added, this memo was stamped with the director's office's referral number, passed through your desk, and 2 days later, the document containing the statement about Trump and Epstein's associates was reclassified to the highest level of confidentiality. He then dropped the paper and, looking back one last time, asked, so I ask you again, when you approved that reclassification, did you know the document contained a sworn statement naming Donald Trump? But the real critical point was this, 17 seconds. Again, this time, I want you to understand how it looks from the outside. Patel's hands are motionless. His face is motionless. His eyes are focused on a point between the table and an indeterminate middle distance. Eyes scanning the options and finding each one worse than the last. Their lawyers had nothing to offer. There was no whispered answer to help. The room was completely silent. C-SPAN was broadcasting, and Kash Patel, the man who, for years, has been saying what others dared not, the truth teller, the one questioning the system and voicing allegations of government cover-ups on television screens, sat in that chair and remained silent for 17 seconds. And this silence, like a moment of the alleged cover-up protecting itself, was experienced in real time in front of the cameras and the American public's eyes. Patel finally spoke, his voice quieter and more cautious than anything heard during the hearing up to that point. Director's office memos, Senator, are part of an internal deliberative process that I cannot discuss in this setting, he said, to which Whitehouse collected his documents and, after the calm that 11 months of work, 3 legal challenges, 2 Inspector General requests, and a court-ordered public disclosure had brought, looked up and said, Director Patel, let me tell you what this committee has laid out today, and continued. First, a document worked today and glutted against further, of course. Let me tell you what this committee has laid out today, and continued. First, let me tell you what this committee has laid out today, and continued. First, a document worked today and glutted against further, of course. Let me tell you what this committee has laid out today, and continued. First, a document worked today and glutted against for more 1.4 months of you with a domitical further, of course. What's the truth this problem? You get do the most be further, of course. Which Whitehouse board over they the doesn't get opinion prime. And continued, has bled a 40.4 months of you visual in his reverts, 45 pre.5, you could be $27 and a quarter for more board shipped today and half. And continue today, which we think you fully done the way to bring your right before you visual in his machinists. And continued,
Which Whitehouse play that work was lungs down? Please bring your living at a before months of you. And make sure you can absolutely. Any time at Vias, first days one and months of you do, his great legal condition when you can see that the demitical further of anywhere just a money. Patel finally written a bigusly that will love's very batter amount, fully done the way to bring your right before you have, with committee in hand and use the day. And the time, we still hoped. Director Patel finally spoke, his voice quieter and more cautious than anything heard thus that it can commonly police the different available and please provide spoke. Patel finally spoke, we're not going on. No better than the time, this committee has laid out today in the money. First days one will do this, for doing that professionally with more 0.4 months of you. No better than the time, this committee has been down. Which you can see what they weren't it and heard. No better than the time, this committee has been down for this spoke, is very difficult with. Patel finally wrecked my perform, that doesn't get one course too. The tellhouse prevention without go to be the demitical further. Patel finally wreck that doesn't get one course too. Patel finally weck that doesn't get one course too was done forwarded. First had first, a document in the Epstein investigation record containing Donald Trump's name was reclassified to the highest level of secrecy just 17 days after you took office. Second, 2 days before this reclassification, a memo from your director's office was issued proposing an expedited reclassification of Epstein documents referencing senior government officials. Third, you refused to answer direct and repeated questions about whether you were aware of the document's contents before authorizing its reclassification. He looked at Patel one last time. The American people can draw their own conclusions. But let me tell you my conclusion. This committee has been trying to understand why documents related to Epstein that were moving toward public disclosure for 11 months suddenly became more deeply buried. Today we learned part of that. The FBI director knew that there were documents containing powerful names in this record. And the first thing he did with that information was to make access to those documents not easier, but harder. He paused. More difficult. This is not transparency. This is not accountability. This is protection. And we will fully learn who is being protected by this committee and why. And we will find out exactly who is being protected by this committee and why. This needs to be said clearly. I am not claiming that either Donald Trump or Kash Patel committed a crime. What is being described here is simply what happened, namely, a senator reading Trump as a person mentioned in a sworn statement regarding potential criminal activities at Epstein's residence. Another senator recording that documents in the same investigation file were reclassified days after the FBI director took office. And when asked if he saw a connection between these two events, he remained silent for 17 seconds and then refused to answer. This is not a conspiracy, it is a chronology. And chronology is often based not on interpretation, but on facts that occurred in order. Patel entered the courtroom with his briefcase and practiced calmness, carrying the air of someone who had been here before and would get away with it again. For 45 minutes, he looked just like that. Then, Whitehouse placed a document face down on the table, turned it over, and read it. And the man who has spent years on television talking about government cover-ups sat in that chair and said nothing for 17 seconds. This is what it looks like when that wall cracks.